In today's video, we'll show you how to change the front brakes of the new Sienna. And as usual, we'll go through everything together and we'll show you a couple of quick tips. So grab a beer and let's get started. First things first, we'll take the caliper off by removing these two small bolts with a 14mm socket. Once we get the two small bolts off, we can very gently wiggle the caliper off and just rest it aside and make sure nothing's tangling in the middle of the air. And oops. Anyways, we'll remove the clips off the pads. Then we can get the old pads off. Now there's two bigger bolts at the back that's holding on the caliper bracket, which I'm pointing at right now. And this is a 19mm socket. And just before we take everything off, we'll put one of the lug nut back on the stud, just so the rotor doesn't fall on your feet while you're standing there. Then we can very gently remove the caliper bracket as well. And time for the new rotors, preferably BrakeX. And now as the old rotor is already off, we can just get it off without having to use a hammer. And new rotors on, bolts on directly. And we'll put the lug nut back on it first for the same reason. Now we'll be working on cleaning up the caliper bracket. We'll take off the old clips. And now we'll grab a wired brush or air tools if you have access to, that's great. We'll clean up the caliper bracket where the new clips will be sitting. And the goal here is not to make the caliper bracket look new, but to clean up any dust or rust the caliper has gathered on it throughout the years. And just before we put everything back together, we'll also slide the slide pin out very gently. Just very gently wiggle it out so you don't damage the rubber boots. Just give it a little bit of love and patience. Patience. More patience. And it's out. So we can take a good look at it. It's still pretty greased. It's greased pretty evenly. We'll also check the rubber boots to see if there's any cracks. And this one looks all good. So we'll just leave it as is. Same thing for the other side. Comes a little ad. In this video, we'll be fitting the Sienna with the BrakeX Alpha brake pads, the BrakeX Aegis fully GeoMet coated rotors. So if you've liked the video so far, or at least found what you need in the video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and check us out at BrakeX.com. And we are on a mission to get our channel to 1,000 subscribers by the end of June. We release weekly videos about brakes, whether it's about installation, quick checkups, or just good to know facts. So if you'll like any of the topics or just want to show us some support, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and it will mean a lot to our team. Thank you very much in advance. And we're just getting the brake pads and the clips out of the box, ready for installation. And if you did get BrakeX brakes, the bedding in installation, the back of our brake pads and our new packaging. And we just want to grease up the caliper bracket where the new clips will be sitting on. And a quick tip here is not to flood your caliper bracket with grease. We just want the right amount of grease that barely covers the area. That would be great. And now we'll go with the new clips. Before we put everything back together, we'll put the BrakeX copper grease on the brake pads. And it's the same story. We don't need to flood the pads with grease. We just need the right amount to have it covered up. And let's put everything back together. First things first, the caliper bracket and the 219mm bolts that we took off earlier. And just as you're tightening your bolts, to make sure everything's tight, you'll not want to have your brakes wiggling around. And it's time for the new pads. And before we put everything back together, we'll use a caliper piston tool just to push the pistons back in the caliper to make room for the new pads. Now again, these type of tools aren't the most intuitive to work with, but again, love and patience. And once we get the caliper back on the car, we'll reinstall the two 14mm bolts. And just make sure everything's tightened up. And that's it. We're all set. So again, if you've liked the video or at least found what you need in it, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to our channel, and check us out at BrakeX.com.